Even though the Nintendo Switch has been out since 2017, it does seem like the system still has lots of life left. Mainly I judge that by how many games I'm still looking forward to that haven't come out yet, that a lot of people are looking forward to as well. And the recent Nintendo Direct contributed to that list quite well. Of course, there's different reasons too that I'll mention in the video. And at the same time, I'm also going to use this video as a way to tell you some of the Switch games I'm looking forward to personally. I figured that would make this video a bit more interesting than just having, two separate videos. Alright, let's take a look at some upcoming games first. I was gonna say that the list isn't in any particular order, but I did come up with it off the top of my head, so there must be some sort of subconscious ordering going on. Like a lot of people, I'm excited for the next Zelda entry, Breath of the Wild 2. The current game was the first one of the 3D games to feature such an open world, so I'm very curious to see how that idea has been built upon. What sort of tweaks did they do to differentiate it from the first Breath of the Wild? It would be easy to just do the same thing again and only change things slightly. I hope that's not the case, but it could still end up being a good game regardless. Though that would be the lazy way out, I think. Splatoon 3 I'm also looking forward to, actually. So far I've enjoyed every game in the series. From the trailer that exists, it looks like multiplayer will feature more of the same with some added elements. But Splatoon has some very interesting lore about it, and therefore some good single-player gameplay too. Unfortunately, Splatoon 2, like with the interesting part of that storyline, was made into a DLC rather than being part of the regular game. So the regular single-player in that game just ended up being a spruced-up version of the first game's single-player missions, basically. In Splatoon 3, it looks like it's quite a bit different from the previous two games with some new landscapes and level designs, so it should be quite fun. A game I had no idea about until a fan mentioned it, actually more than one fan, was Triangle Strategy. Basically, it's a strategy RPG with the visuals of Octopath Traveler. It's a 3D meets 2D 16-bit sort of thing, which I think looks great. The first game that I can think of that actually utilized that sort of art style was 3D Dot Game Heroes, and it took a while before another major game really took that aesthetic and played around with it more. Triangle Strategy is a grid-based and also turn-based game similar to Disgaea and Fire Emblem. Unlike those two, I think the level design is really intriguing. Disgaea is more outlandish and Fire Emblem has this zoomed-out feel, while in Triangle Strategy it looks like the environments are more intimate and also more realistically proportioned to the people. There's a scene in one of the trailers which shows a soldier going up a building and shooting from there. I'm not really sure about the name though, Triangle Strategy. Perhaps they could have come up with something a little bit better. The reason I'm saying that is just because, I'm hoping that sales won't be hindered by its name or something. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was also shown at the Nintendo Direct. There's a lot of that series actually being represented on the Switch, with Xenoblade 2, the expansion of that game, which technically is its own game, and Xenoblade Chronicle, the definitive edition. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 looks great, and it seems to have a deep story where the theme is that, former friends end up being in opposite factions. I quite like that sort of thing. That's better than the usual, very ethically simplistic plots you see in some other fantasy RPGs. I'm also looking forward to Rune Factory 5. I've played the previous game on the 3DS. I like these life simulation and RPG type game combinations. I do know that Rune Factory's original developer Neverland went under, and it's the first game in the series to be done by a new developer, Hakama. Almost said Hachama. But yeah, that studio is run by the producer of Story of Seasons and Rune Factory, so, I think it's in good hands there. The move from the top-down view to a more 3D look is interesting, and I like the brightly colored world that the game is portraying. It reminds me a bit of Fantasy Life on the 3DS and how cheerful that looked. While many people were hoping for a Mario Kart 9, the new Track Pack DLC with 48 remastered tracks is still pretty exciting. That is for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I should say. A new game is of course always more exciting than some new tracks because everything feels different and there's new carts and whatnot, and you have to maybe try out different characters than before or different cards, different accessories. But yeah, that's not the case here. But even so, 48 circuits is a lot of content. I'm looking forward to try them out. There's a few circuits I'm looking forward to and I want to see how they transition to this game. Speaking of Mario spin-offs, there is a new Mario Strikers Battle League. I don't really know how well these games do, but I've always been meaning to give the series a go, and I might do so now. It looks kind of fun. Normally I prefer to just stick with FIFA, but I figured, hey, I normally just play sim racing games and stuff like that. But I really like Mario Kart, so, maybe the same thing applies here with soccer/football. I can call soccer football, weil ich Deutsch bin und man sagt Fußball. Let's go with something a bit more obscure this time. Like the Vita, the Switch has numerous anime niche game releases. One I'm looking forward to is Genkai Toki 7 Pirates H, which is in fact a Vita game originally. Every now and then, Japanese niche games end up getting releases on the Switch, and this is one of them. 7 Pirates is an RPG with an interesting minigame, let's say. If you've played Morero Chronicle or Morero Crystal on the Switch or other system, then you can imagine the levels of fan service that will be present here. Hopefully later games in the series will come out as well. A series I've actually never really gotten into, which surprises people, is Bionetta. It has a good amount of fans, and the third installment is coming to the Switch. Obviously, or else I wouldn't be talking about it. People often expect me to like it since I like, fan service action games like, for example, Senran Kagura. But I actually played the first game for a few hours since a friend had it, but I just couldn't get into it. That being said, it's, coming to the Switch, and I know there are people eagerly awaiting that game, especially people who watch this channel, so I thought I'd mention it. Maybe one day I'll give it a go again. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Metroid Prime 4, and Sonic Frontiers are other games to look forward to. I admit I actually haven't really ever gotten into those franchises, though I'd be quite pleased to see if Sonic Frontiers ends up being a success. The franchise hasn't seen the success it had since the 2D era, so maybe this is a good opportunity for the Sonic series to reinvent itself. I know it's a multi-platform release, but these days Sonic and Nintendo just kind of fit together, which is really strange considering, when I was a kid, Sega and Nintendo were the biggest competitors. But yeah, I'm being hopeful here, and it would be great if that game turned out being a lot of fun for a lot of people. Then there's the ports and remasters/remakes. Chrono Cross, No Man's Sky, that Assassin's Creed collection, which actually looks like it's struggling a bit in terms of performance with the gameplay that they showed there. Portal 1 and 2, Cuphead, and Earthbound Beginnings aka Mother 1, among others. Quite a bit of stuff there for a wide range of people. And I know there was other games announced too, but hey, I can't list it all. So those are just some of the more anticipated games I mentioned, other than the one or two obscure ones there. Of course, there's also other ways to determine how long a console may go on for. One of those is historical data. Nintendo consoles tend to go about, let's say, 5 to 7 years before a new one gets a release. That seems to be true with both handheld and home consoles, which is convenient given that the Switch is in both categories. Obviously, the actual lifespan of these consoles was even longer than 5 to 6 years because, they still linger on for a few more years before discontinuation. In a few months, the Switch will have been out for 5 years. Past Nintendo consoles already ended up being replaced at this point, but with the Switch we actually don't even have an announcement for a successor yet. Because of this, I have a theory that the Switch might live on more than just 2 years, until there's actually an announcement or before there's actually a release of a successor. Otherwise, that would undermine the sales of all the games that are coming out this year, especially the ones releasing during the fourth quarter. Of course, that's just my theory. Wouldn't be the first time I was proven wrong at the end, but I think my reasoning makes sense. Also, usually there would be some sort of concrete rumors about a successor, but so far all the rumors ended up being about a mythical, too-good-to-be-true Switch Pro with magically high specs that also magically wasn't all that expensive for some reason. And that just ended up being the OLED Switch. Whatever ends up happening in the future, once a Switch successor does get released, the Nintendo Switch isn't going to just disappear right away. It'll end up being the affordable 2DS style option, even more so than the Switch Lite is right now. Something I'm wondering about is whether we'll see more hardware revisions once a new console has been announced. You know how the Wii Mini existed back in the day? Maybe something like that will happen with the Switch too. I think that would be interesting from a collector's standpoint. Anyway, that's my reasoning as to why I think the Nintendo Switch still has lots of life left. Now I'm just gonna wait for the previously mentioned games to be released. Let me know what you think in the comments, whether you agree or disagree with my theory. I'm sure there are other reasons that support or go against what I've been saying here in the video. And of course, if you're looking forward to any of the games, let me know as well. It would be interesting to see, what games I haven't mentioned that people are interested in. Thank you to everyone that supports the channel. Tier 3 subscribers are listed here. You can also check patreon.com/yzen to get your name on here as well at the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.